Okay. Hi, everyone. Let's get started because we do have a lot to get through today. I hope you all had a very nice Thanksgiving. And if you were at our class on Tuesday night, you used some of what we showed you. We got very positive feedback from that session. I hope you benefited from it. Okay, so today is our 6th Zoom class. Today's lesson 6. Just a few reminders. If you would like to contribute something, if you have a question, something you want to add throughout the class, feel free to raise your hand virtually on a computer by clicking on participants and then raise hand, or on a smartphone or tablet by clicking on more and then raise hand. If you have not done so already, please make sure to join our WhatsApp chat where we send updates and messages about all the classes that we offer. The other option to this is being on our email list, which is also an alternative. Please be on one of those and let me know if you are not, and I'll be happy to help you get set up with that. Okay, so what are we going to be doing today? So last week, Joe, you can go to the next slide. We learned all about health and technology. We learned about an app specifically called HealthSync. We learned about the Apple Health app. We learned how to create a healthy workspace when we're working on a computer. And today we're going to be looking at 2 important concepts. The first is called voice recognition, and the second is exploring the internet. And then we will finish off with a breakout room session. That's the itinerary for today. But let's get started because we do have a lot to get through. So just go to the next slide. So if you haven't heard of voice recognition before, this basically is a tool on your computer that allows you to basically speak to the phone, to speak to the device, and you can ask for certain commands. So ask for some sort of question that you might have or something that you might want to do. Is basically a shortcut of things that you could do just by speaking. And on the iPhone, that's called SIRI, which you might have heard of. I know on Android, I think it's called Cortana, or there are a few other ones, but they're all basically the same concept, which is you're speaking into the phone, asking for some sort of command. We are going to be doing the demo with the Apple phones because that's what I'm assuming most of you have, but the process is the same. For all devices, it's the same concept where you're asking for something to be done without clicking. You could just use your voice. And if you look on the screen right now, I actually outlined a few bullet points of what we're going to be covering. The first one is how to access Siri, then how to use Siri for call and texts, for everyday tasks, to play music, to have a smartphone, a smart home connection, which I'll tell you about, to ask for knowledge on the go, and for a few more powerful tasks. So this is basically the outline of what we're going to discuss regarding Siri. Okay, let's go to the next slide, Joe. So there are a few ways for you to be able to access Siri. So I'll pass over to Caroline to show you how to do that.
Okay, hi guys. So there are like 3 ways to access Siri. And for older phones, the way you can do it is if you have that middle button, the home button on the bottom of your phone, if you hold down on that button, eventually Siri will come up and you can ask Siri a question, or we'll go into further detail later with what we can ask Siri. Later on newer phones, so Jordan drew a picture. So that circle button, the home button on the bottom of your phone. Okay. Now for newer phones, there are 2 other ways you can access Siri. So on newer phones, you have your like power button, which if you hold down on, Siri will pop up. And again, you can ask any question, which we'll go into later. So it's this button that Jordan drew an arrow to. So like on my phone, it's this button right here. Later, also on newer phones, you could just say the words, "Hey Siri," and pop up. So on my computer, Siri just popped up because I said those words, and on my phone.
Okay, those are the 3 ways to access Siri. If you do have that circle button, feel free to use that. Just hold on it for 2 or 3 seconds. The same thing goes with the power button. If you do have a home button, the power button won't work. It's only the power button if you do not have a home button, which is those new phones that have no home button. It's just a complete screen. If you have one of those, use the power button. Also, if you have a newer one, you could just speak into the phone. Say those words, "Hey Siri," and your computer, your devices, your phones will light up, and you'll be able to actually ask for things. Okay, Jill, let's go to Joe. You could show your phone screen now. So we could do as I'm wrapping this up. But basically, what Joe's now going to share his phone screen, and we're going to show you how to actually play with Siri and ask some commands. We're going to start with a call and text, which is basically asking Siri to make a phone call for you, or how to send a message, or using even outside programs like WhatsApp. You could ask Siri to send messages as well. And as soon as Joe gets the phone on the screen, we're going to show you a few of the ways you could ask Siri. So Julia, go ahead.
Okay, so once you're in Siri, you're able to ask Siri to send messages and make phone calls for you so that you don't actually need to open the app and do it manually. So if Joe opens Siri on his phone, for example, he can ask Siri something like, call mom on speaker. And Siri will complete this task. Maybe it'll ask a couple of follow-up questions. So here, as you can see, it asks which number does it want you, do you want to call? So you can say home or cell or phone number. And once you tell Siri your preference, Siri will then call mom. So in order for this to work, you need to have this number saved in your phone. So as you can see right now, Joe told Siri, hey Siri, call Jordan Mittler. And it automatically calls Jordan without Joe having to open the phone app and type in Jordan's name and call him. Okay, so if you end this call, Joe, so that's how you would send a call using Siri. So you would just say, hey Siri, call whoever is in your contacts. So just as a reminder, this number is going to need to be in your contacts in order for it to work. So you couldn't say, hey Siri, call a random number, because Siri needs to have that number already stored in your contacts. And then you could also follow a similar route to send a message. So you would just say, hey Siri, send a text message to Jordan Mittler. And then Siri will then ask you, what do you want to say in this text message? And then you would need to you would need to tell Siri, say, hi Jordan, hope you are having a good day. And then Siri is going to ask you, are you sure you want to send this message? And you would press send, and that would then send the message to Jordan. So that's how you would send both a text and you would through Siri, and that's how you would also call somebody using Siri.
Okay. Yeah, so that's basically a quick overview on how you use Siri for phone calls. And sorry, every time I say Siri, my computer lights up. But you could send a phone call or a message. Either of those work. You could also use a third-party program, like I said, like WhatsApp. So you could say, Siri, send a WhatsApp message to Jordan saying hello. And once again, you don't only have to use Hey Siri, but you could also use the home button to hold down, or the power button as well. Both of those work. Okay, we're now going to go to everyday tasks. Julia, you can continue with that.
Okay, so Siri can also do everyday tasks for you, such as setting an alarm or having you split a check 3 ways. It could do calculations. It could also set timers. So we could try out a few of these functions the same way you would say either, hey Siri, you would hold down either the home button or the power button, depending on your phone. And Joe could say something like, hey Siri, wake me up tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. And Siri would then set an alarm for 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, and you wouldn't need to open the alarm app on your the clock app on your phone. It would just be automatically set, and tomorrow at 7 a.m. it would ring. Or another thing you could do is say, hey Siri, split a check, a $94 check 3 ways. So that would have Siri split $94 into 3 parts, and then you wouldn't have to go into the calculator app and do that separately. Another thing that you could have Siri do is set reminders. So you could say, hey Siri, set a reminder for me to do something in 30 minutes, and then Siri would then remind you to do that. You could also set timers. So these are all very basic everyday tasks that are made easier by using Siri. You don't need to open up the specific apps to set these timers or set these alarms or do the math. You're able to do it directly through Siri.
Okay, great. I also want to point out that you do have to be patient with Siri because although it is pretty advanced, there are times where it doesn't hear exactly what you're saying, or it may fill in a word that you didn't mean to say, and you might have to restate your request. You have to speak slowly and loud enough so that the phone hears you. Because sometimes it might say, I don't understand, or I'm not sure what you're asking for, which it's not like that you made a huge mistake. You could re-ask it. It's not the biggest problem, but I wouldn't be so shocked if that happens, especially on your first few times using Siri. Okay, so when it comes to using Siri for music, you could ask Siri to play either a specific song, or you could ask Siri to play some 90s hip hop, a genre that you enjoy listening to. You could ask Siri facts about a song, like who's the artist, when did the song come out, and you could ask Siri information like that. So let's give this a try, and let's ask Siri, play me something I'd like. Okay, so when you ask Siri to play something that you like, it basically takes what you've listened to in the past, so other songs that you've listened to, things that you enjoy listening to, and it recommends a song. You meaning when Joe said play me something I like, he didn't say the name of a song. He just said play me something I like. Siri is pretty smart and can pull out a song that they think you would be interested in listening to. Now, also, like I said, you could ask for factual information. We're not going to go through all this, but you could say, what song is this, or who created the song, or when did the song come out? If you're interested in actual factual information, you could ask that as well. Okay, and the next thing is smart home, which we're also not going to get into because if you don't know what that is, smart home is basically a way to control your home using a program like Siri. So, for example, if you have specific light bulbs, maybe a door, maybe specific cameras around your home, you could say something like turn on the lights in the living room, or you could say something like warm it up in here and the heat in your house would go up, or you could say something like show the driveway camera, right? Something like that. Now, all this stuff you can see are pretty, this is pretty advanced. Like, how would Siri know to turn on my lights? That seems pretty cool. And the reason why we're not going to show you all this is because not all devices work with Siri. So, for example, for this to work, you need a specific light bulb. You need to go to Amazon or some sort of shopping website and type in light bulb compatible with, let's say, Siri. And then you could purchase that light bulb, set it up, and then it should work, and then you should be able to connect it to Siri. But I'm assuming many of you, I definitely don't have these type of devices sitting around the house. So I just want to mention it that if you do, or if you're interested in getting something like this, you can, but you definitely need some sort of specific product. You need some sort of camera or a light bulb or something to hook it up to. You can't just use any light bulb that you have in the house. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to look at is knowledge on the go, which, just like it sounds, is just getting answers to questions online. We are going to show you the internet later today, and we're going to show you how to ask questions on the internet as well. But like we said, Siri is a shortcut. Siri is a way to get your questions and answers even quicker just by using your voice. So Caroline, go ahead.
Okay, so any questions you have that you're just wondering at any point of time or wherever you're heading to, you can just ask Siri. So one question that I'm just wondering, is like, how can you say thank you in Mandarin? So what you would do is you say, hey Siri, how do you say thank you in Mandarin? And Siri would load and it would convert to Mandarin. Then again, like a different question you could ask is, a different question you can ask is, how many dollars are there in 45 euros? So that's another example. And again, you would say, hey Siri, how many dollars are there in 45 euros? So, and it would convert that for you, like Julia showed with calculations. And this goes for any just on the go questions you have. So if there's a game going on and you want to know the score of that game, you could just say, hey Siri, what's the score of the Clippers game versus the Spurs? Would tell you the exact score. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah, so really anything you could ask Siri, from sports games to music shows to math equations to language conversions, really anything that you want answered, you could use a program like Siri for. Okay, and then the last, there are just a few more what we call more powerful tasks that I'm going to show you. You could ask Siri to browse your photo albums. So, for example, if let's say you went on a vacation, last summer, you could say something like, "Siri, show my pictures from my trip last summer," and Siri would be very intellectual, and Siri would find, assuming you went on a trip last summer, all the pictures from last summer. Joe, if you, you could see that, I'm not sure Joe went on a vacation last summer, but the point is that if you did have a group of pictures that you took in one place over the course of, let's say, a week, Siri would be able to pick up that, all these pictures were taken at some sort of vacation, because you don't live in Florida, but you were there for a week and you took 200 pictures. So Siri could pick up that that was some sort of vacation, and we'll show you those pictures from that trip. Also, if you lost a device, for example, if you're not sure where your watch is, or your phone, or maybe your AirPods, which is what I have in my ear right now, or anything kind of Bluetooth technologically connected, you could say something to Siri like, "Find my AirPods." And Siri would actually tell you, assuming that they're turned on and the battery is on, where they are, and give you an address so that you could find something if you lost it. Also, Siri knows about your history. So if you let's say last night you were working on some sort of document, you were working really hard on this paper, you could say something like, "Open the document I was working on last night." And Siri actually knows which document you were working on because you spent countless hours on it. And they would pull it up directly for you instead of having to go to the Documents app, then searching for the document, then clicking on it, then opening up. You can see that Siri is just that extra shortcut. You could also use Siri to search Google. So you could say, search Google for the weather tomorrow, and you'll be able to find that information as well. And then the last thing is, if you have Apple Pay set up, which we're actually going to look at in this class, I think lesson 8 or 9, where you could pay people online, meaning you could send money using a program like Venmo or any of this. You could use Siri to say, like, "Pay Jordan $25. You could use that as well. So really, it's hard for us collectively. We tried to outline every single thing that Siri is capable of doing because it's really infinite. And you mostly have to play around with it in order to figure out what it can and cannot do. And you'll see that a lot of things people just don't like. For example, maybe for knowledge on the go, maybe people really like typing into Google their questions, but they like using Siri to play music for them, right? So there are different perspectives on what you would use Siri for. I personally think it's most helpful for making phone calls and texts, because then you could just really speak into the phone, call Jordan, and that's it. You don't have to type in a phone number. You don't have to type in the contacts. You don't have to find anything like that. Also with messages, if you want to send a paragraph long text message, instead of typing it out, and maybe you keep hitting the wrong letters with your fingers and all that, you could use Siri, and then you could really speak out. You could speak out the whole paragraph, and maybe Siri will mess up a word or so there, or maybe miss a punctuation point because it's not as advanced. But I think the user will be able to understand. And anytime you're making a phone call or sending a message, Siri will actually ask to confirm. Because if you say call Jordan, and maybe it picks up that I said Joe, maybe by accident Siri picked up, it will say, confirming that you want to call Jordan, or confirming that you want to send this message to Jordan, so that you can make changes if Siri didn't mess something up, because you definitely wouldn't want to say something and then Siri send the complete opposite of what you're trying to say. So it definitely gives you that ability to check back and make sure that everything looks good before sending the message through. Joe, you can go to back to the presentation. And Renee, you could ask your question as Joe's doing that, just by unmuting yourself.
Right. So suppose I'm working on a document on my computer, and can I ask Siri to find the document I was working on last night? So I'm going to speak to Siri on my iPhone. Is it connected to my computer?
So first of all, they all have to be Apple devices. That's number one. Because Siri is a built-in Apple program, it has to be on Apple devices. There is a voice recognition on all devices, but they can't blend if you're on different devices. You can't be working on a document on an Android phone and then go to your Apple computer and say, look up my phone. There's no way that will happen. If you do have kind of synced Apple devices across the board. There are some things that will blend. For example, messages and phone calls will appear on all your devices, so that if you say Siri, call Jordan or whatever, if you have it saved into your contacts on your computer, it will also affect your phone as well. I'm not sure about a document though, because that seems like it's pretty specific. It depends if it's on like Google Docs, a program like that, where I think that's specific to the computer, or Apple's Pages, which is on both iPhones and on Macs. So you kind of have to play around with it. But I definitely know that phone calls and messages and those type of things that blend across devices, those work simultaneously, assuming that they're made by the same company.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Okay, are there any more questions regarding voice recognition or using Siri before we move on to our next topic? You could raise your hand virtually if you do have any questions, or I see if your hands are up physically as well. If not, then you can. Geeta, would you like to ask a question? Do you want to unmute yourself? Geeta, you just have to click on unmute in the center of the screen.
How do I find, how do I recognize the Siri app or something? Because I see a nice little round ball going around, but which one is it really for Siri, to turn on Siri?
So basically, Siri doesn't have an actual icon or an app on your screen.
Oh.
Just by holding down the power button or the home button and you see that little ball, that means you're in the right place. And that means you could just speak to Siri as normal.
I get it. Thank you.
Okay, Sharon, I see you have a question. Please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Right. I've found without activating Siri that it has listened into conversations. Apparently it's still on. And if you're standing near it and talking to someone, it hears about your whole life. How do you know that it's not on? How do you know that it's turned off for sure?
Great question. So just like the internet, there's always that kind of, I want to feel private when I'm using these type of devices. If you've heard of Amazon Alexa, Google Home, all these kind of voice recognition devices, they all kind of work the same way, where people are a bit nervous about them listening into your conversations. The only thing I'll mention, which I don't really want to go into, is that if you go into settings and type in Siri, there's a switch that says always listen for Hey Siri, right? If that's turned off, that means the only way to access Siri is by holding down one of the buttons, either the circle button or the power button, which means that if you're just walking in a room, Siri can't hear you. But if Hey Siri is turned on, that means that Siri is always waiting. It's listening for you to say those words, which means that it's listening all the time. So if you are very concerned about your privacy, I would go to the settings app, type in Siri, and just turn off the switch that says always listen for Hey Siri. And that way, the only way to access Siri, you won't be able to say Hey Siri anymore, but that's, I guess, the positive thing, because then they will no longer be listening for that, but they will rely on you to hone down a button. But there's always that risk. Same thing on the internet, same thing. Every time you buy anything, there's always that small percentage of risk. I would say pretty confident if you have, say, Hey Siri turned off, that you should be fine. Okay, I want to get into our next topic because we do have some more to get through today. We're now going to be looking at the internet, which is obviously a huge topic. We are going to try to get to some important ways that you could use it today, things that we think will hopefully benefit you in your lives. But before we actually get into it, let me just give you a brief overview of some terms that I think you should know. First of all, the internet is obviously a global network of billions of computers around the world that allows you to find answers and information about anything, really anything. And the way you access the internet is through what's called an internet browser. Joe, you can go to the next slide. And I actually put pictures of 4 of the most common internet browsers. Starting from the left, we have Firefox, Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, and Safari. If you have ever used the internet before, I hope, and I'm pretty sure that you know at least what one of these is, because I'm assuming that you've been using one of them. There are a few others that are a little less popular, but these are the 4 main ones across the board. Typically, the one on the right, that's Safari, is what you use on all Apple devices, including smartphones and tablets and computers. You're always using that little compass. That's what it looks like, a little compass. The E with the yellow line through it, that is typically found on Microsoft computers. Google Chrome and Firefox could be used on any device. You could download these platforms on any device. but you would have to download these separately, meaning the third-party applications. Internet Explorer is made by Microsoft. So if you buy a Microsoft computer, you should see it downloaded there for you. Same thing with Safari on an Apple device. It will be there for you when you first get the phone. And you can use these platforms, as normal. These are all internet browsers, and you need one of these in order to use the internet. Yes, Myron, go ahead.
Internet Explorer doesn't really exist any longer. It's now called Microsoft Edge. And also Bing is very good.
Okay, so I'll cover two of those. Number one, Bing is not an internet browser. That's a search engine, which we're going to get to. Bing is not an internet browser yet. And you are correct that Internet Explorer has blended with Microsoft Edge, but the icon still looks similar. It has that little E, but they both work the same way. Microsoft Edge is like a more recent update of Internet Explorer. So if you see that word, it does mean the same thing. Microsoft Edge, Internet Explorer, those terms are used the same way. But these are four of the most common internet browsers. They are forms of software, applications that you could use to access information on the internet. Okay, now, Jay, you can go to the next slide. Now, the internet has many websites. This is a term you should be familiar with because you probably go to them every single day. And a website is a specific place that can be accessed on the World Wide Web where information can be shared. Now, the World Wide Web, I forgot to mention, is where all the information is stored on the internet. So all the questions, they aren't stored on the internet. Inside the internet is the World Wide Web, and all the information is stored there. That's where there's probably servers all around the world, different computers that keep track and store this information. Now the way I'll explain it to you is if you think of the internet as like a building, if you think of the World Wide Web as as a building, and every single apartment in the building is a website. If you think about it that way, every single apartment has the same address, right? The only difference is the apartment number, right? Because if someone's on 12K and someone's on 4J, they have the same exact address, 866-911park.com, whatever it is, and their apartment number is the only part of that address that differs. The zip code's the same, the city is the same, everything's the same except the apartment number. And that's the same concept when you're talking about websites, because they are all in the same structure. They're all in the World Wide Web. The only difference is the name of the website, and that is what we kind of refer to as the apartment number. So you should be aware of that when you're searching on the internet. And it is important to actually note the format of a website. All websites follow the same format. I'm going to put on the screen now. I actually color coded it for you so you could see kind of the differences. And this is the format for all websites. So Julia, I'll have you explain this. The format of a website.
Okay, so every website follows the same type of format. It's going to always start with that www, which stands for World Wide Web, and then it has a dot. And then this middle part, the website name, is what's interchangeable. So every website is going to have a different website name. So in this example here, we use Google, so it would be www.google, but if you were going to Amazon, it would say www.amazon. And then at the end, you have the domain. So in this example, there's .com, but there's a couple of different domains that websites use. So for example, you could have .org or .edu for an educational website. So it depends on the website, but you're always going to have this same format of www World Wide Web, then the website name, and then the domain. So you could count on that specific format for every single website that's on the internet.
Great.
So here, for example, you have three different websites that all follow the same format. So the first one is Amazon. You can see it starts with the www, then it has Amazon in the middle, and then the domain of Amazon is .com. And then the next one we have is CKJ, which stands for Congregation Jeshurun, which is a temple or shul that a lot of people from Ramaz go to. So as you can see, it follows that same format, www.ckj.org. So this domain is .org. And then the final one, www.nyu.edu. So this is the website for NYU, which is a school. So the domain for it is .edu for an educational website.
Okay, yeah, so just like Julia said, this follows the same format. Just go back for 1 second. The www stands for World Wide Web. That's always at the beginning, the website name in the center, and then the domain at the end. .org, I would say, is typically used for nonprofit organizations. So anything that like UJA or any of those organizations that do some sort of charity work or don't actually charge money. Those you'll typically find with .org, and schools with .edu, but .com is the most popular. That's what you will see most naturally. But we're going to talk about Google in a sec. And Google actually allows you to type in keywords as opposed to just long website names like this. So for example, on Google, if you just typed in or CKJ or NYU, you'll be able to find this website without following that format, www.amazon.com. You don't actually have to be as specific as that when you're using a smart program like Google that just takes keywords as search terms as opposed to these long websites. All right, Joe, you can go to the next slide. So before we actually go into searching, there is something important that you should be aware of, and that is searching very specifically on Google. When you are searching on Google, people tend to, especially seniors who are very punctual and like to have punctuation and capital letters and all that, they seem to actually be very grammatical when they're searching on the Google, which is completely unnecessary. And, you know, using punctuation, using commas and capitalizing specific letters, Google doesn't care about that. Meaning if you didn't do that, you would get the same exact results. So it's not so important to be aware of actually using those sort of concepts. Also, what I call fill-in words, you don't need, like it is, right? Those two words are very unnecessary because, you know, or if you say, show me something on Google, show me this movie, right? Show me is very unnecessary because that's what Google is going to do. When you type the name of the movie, they're going to show it to you. So you want to be careful that when you're typing in those type of fill-in words that you kind of take those out when you're searching. Also, another tip is when you're searching on Google and you have kind of a title or a group of words that go together, to use quotation marks. And what that means is what we're actually going to show you when we look at books. The term "To Kill a Mockingbird" is the name of a book. And if you don't put quotes around those group of words, you're not only going to get searches that have "To Kill a Mockingbird," but you're also going to get every single search that has the word "kill," that has the word "mockingbird," that has the word "to." And I'm not sure you want all those searches. Now, Google is pretty smart, and they might actually put the results you're looking for at the top. But if you put quotes around "To Kill a Mockingbird," Google will only show you results that have those words together in one place, which is, I'm assuming, what you're looking for. So if you put quotes around any search, they will only show you the results when all those words are in one place in order next to each other. And that's something that you should be aware of when you're searching online. Another example I can think of is like chocolate chip cookies. You don't want chocolate chips. You don't want cookies. You want chocolate chip cookies. So if you put quotes around those, it will put them all together, making it one thing together. And those are the results that you will find. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So we're now going to be looking at a few of the most common things you could do on the internet. Questions, reading/news, shopping, calculations, photos, and using a map. We're not going to go into depth into these. We're basically just going to give an example with each of these on how to find things on the internet. We are going to be using Google because it is the main search engine. And like Myron has said, Bing is similar to Google in terms that you could type in requests. Google is the most popular, so we are going to be using that today, but Bing is the same concept where you'll have a search bar and you'll type in your question and you'll find the results that you're looking for. So we're now going to start with questions. Joe, you could share your computer screen. You could open up Google and let's try typing in a question and seeing if we can get the answer. Caroline, go ahead.
Okay, so basically, once Joe opens up Google, okay, so he's there, he's going to put in the keyboard, he's going to put, what time is it? So this is just a demo question. So if Joe puts in, what time is it? And presses enter, the current time will come up. So once Joe presses that, okay, it should come up usually. But like Jordan said before, there are specific keywords that sometimes Google doesn't need or needs. So Google is very smart. So if you just type in time, again, the same exact time will come up as searching in what time is it. So you don't need those specific words, mostly just time. Again, this won't work if you're trying to search the time in Israel because that's a completely different time. So you need to specify. So if you want the time in Israel, you could write Israel time, and that will also come up. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not coming up, but that usually should work.
Here, Joe, if you stop sharing, let me share my screen. Sorry, guys. Okay, here's the website. Here's Google. If you kind of want to explain again.
Okay, yeah. So again, first, if Jordan types in what time is it, the specific time will come up. Again, if he goes back and just shortens that time, that what time is it, to just writing the word time in, again, the same thing will come up. So now if you're trying to specify between a different location, then you need to type that in. So let's say you're trying to find the Israel time. You could say time in Israel or Israel time, and that exact time will come up. So you just need to specify.
Great. So overall, I would say shorter is better, but it's not always, because sometimes you do have to include a lot of information. But asking any question on Google is as simple as just typing it in, trying to be as specific as possible. I would always kind of leave out what is. That usually is something you could leave out. Question marks when you're asking questions are also not so necessary. Let me try and think. Let's say if I just type in how to make cookies, let me just see if something else comes up. So we actually looked at this when we were looking at the Thanksgiving event on recipes, but you can see how we're getting all of these different recipes that you can click on and browse, and different links that you can click on. You could scroll down and find different links, but I would recommend using the ones at the top because those are usually the most popular and ones that people go to first. The more you scroll down, the farther away you are going to get from your search term. So for example, if I go all the way to 10 or 9 or all these pages, you will start to see not only how to make cookies, but also just the word how and just the word to and just the word make and just the word cookies. So I would definitely recommend staying on the first or second page and browsing those links. Okay, now the next topic is reading/news, which is finding articles and books online. And in fact, you can get many of them for free. Julie, go ahead.
Okay, so there's always the option to actually buy a book, either in person or from a website. But through the internet, you're able to oftentimes just read the book for free. So the way that you would do that, so Jordan before was talking about To Kill a Mockingbird, so we'll use that same book as an example. And you could type in To Kill a Mockingbird free book. And if Joe types that in, a lot of options will come up where you're able to just read the book for free online. So you wouldn't have the hard copy of the book, but as you can see right here, it says PDF, which means that this book is going to be sort of scanned onto the internet and you'll be able to read the entire book. So if you click on that link there, you could see that the entire text of To Kill a Mockingbird shows up, all 257 pages, and you're able to scroll through the entire book without having to actually buy it and order it to your house or either go to a store. So this will usually only be available for popular books. Very random books might not have this free option available, but you could always try. And another way to look it up is you could just say To Kill a Mockingbird free PDF. So that would limit your options even more if you only want it to be in that PDF format. And as you could see, a bunch of different options are coming up here. So you can click on any of these. Sometimes it's not going to give you exactly what you want, but you might need to scroll down on the website or select other ones to find exactly what you want. And oftentimes it will be that first link that's exactly what you're looking for. So that's how you would find a free book on the internet. And then another thing that you could do is you could search for news on the internet. So you can either go to a specific news website. So if you only want news from one news website, you can either type in that news website. So if Jordan types one in, you're only going to find news so right now Jordan typed in CNN and he would be now searching into CNN and he would only get news published by CNN. But another way to find news is just to type into Google broadly, like news about coronavirus. And then it would give you lots of news all about coronavirus. So you wouldn't need to go to a specific news website, but you would be able to see it from different news websites across the internet.
Great. So the only thing is that when you're looking for books, I would not promise that you are going to find every single book online for free, as Julia said, but you should always try it before going on and purchasing a $20 book, because you might find a version for free online just by using those words, the name of the book, online, free. And I would actually say with To Kill a Mockingbird, the book is actually, the word book is necessary because there's a movie, there's a Broadway show, there's different audiobooks, meaning there are different versions. So I would be specific and write book online free. Those all, even though it is a long search term, right? To Kill a Mockingbird, free online book. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 7 search terms. So even though we said short is always better, this is actually the necessary search term in order to find this. And I would even put quotes around To Kill a Mockingbird. So that we only get results with the words To Kill a Mockingbird together, and you have free online book as well. Now, if you put free online book together, then you will only get results that say free online book, but you're okay if it says online free book, right? The order to those doesn't matter, but with To Kill a Mockingbird, you do want those all together in order. So it's important, or not important, but it's helpful, and it will get you to your search even faster. Okay. Yes, Myron, you can go ahead, ask your question. Just unmute yourself, please. Just unmute yourself. You are muted. We cannot hear you.
I went and researched Joe Nesbo, and I got some books online.
It's amazing.
So thanks. I'll go for James Patterson. I'm going to do the same. Thanks.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Now the next thing we're going to look at, our third thing is shopping. And shopping, I'll show you if basically with shopping, you can search into Google if you're not sure where you want to buy something, or you can go to a website like Amazon or Fresh Direct and actually make your purchase. We actually looked at online shopping a few weeks ago. But if I type into Google, let's say I want to buy a computer. You can see that we are getting computer stores, we're getting PC, laptop, different options. But I'm going to make my search. Let me make my search more specific because I just saw, I didn't get what I was looking for. I'm going to type in Apple laptop computer under $1,000. It's a little more specific. Let me add the $1,000. Okay. Now, it looks like my first thing is something I'm looking for. MacBook is the name of a laptop, and it is made by Apple under $1,000. Let's click on that. And let's see. Okay, look at all these computers: $849, $849, $869, $819. And I'm assuming, see here, as we scroll more down, you will find ones that are not exactly what you're looking for. Like I said, the ones at the top are usually match your searches more specifically. As you scroll down, you might get, all right, this is $100 more. You're even getting further down. But it's important to usually the ones at the top are what you're looking for. If you know where you want to buy something, for example, if I want running shoes from Nike, I'm going to first go to Nike.com, which is this first link over here. And now into the Nike search bar, which is usually found at the top of the screen. Almost all websites have a search bar. I'm now going to type in running shoes. And now I'm not getting running shoes from all these different websites, but only from the Nike website. I'm finding these specific running shoes. And you could use filters on the left, which we did explain. I'm not going to go into it. But if you only want blue shoes, you can click on blue. And now you'll only get blue shoes or shoes with some sort of blue in it. And you could search from there as well. If you don't know where you want to search from, use Google first. And Google will take you to these different websites in order to find what you're looking for. Okay, let's go back to Google. And Caroline, can you show us how to put in some calculations?
Yeah, so like Siri, Google can do any calculations that you want to know on the spot. So a random calculation that, okay, normal one would just be like 1 + 3, which obviously we know the answer to, but Google allows you to know that answer. So a different calculation that I guess is harder would be like 227 + 385. So that's a big calculation that we don't want to do ourselves. And again, Google would just give that to you right away. And once you're in this slide that Google brought you to, you could do further calculations that you have.
Great. Now, something I'll also mention, let me just see if I get it. Yes, something that's also cool, which I think I should mention, is if you type into Google tip calculator, right? Tip calculator. You could actually type in the total of a bill. So if I type in $100, right? And let's say you want to give a 20% tip, and there are 4 people, including you, it will give you the tip per person and the total per person, including the tip, which is pretty cool. Something you could do just by typing in the total bill. So let's say I make it $200. You'll see that the tip will actually change to $60 a person. You can make the tip 25%. You could play around with this. This is another tool just by typing in tip calculator into the Google search bar and playing around with the options, bill, tip percent, and the number of people, including you, that you want to divide the total price by. Okay, let's go back to Google. And Joe, can you show us how to find some images online?
Yes. So to find images online, there are 2 ways to do it. The first is just to type into the Google search bar, let's say cookies. And then that would bring you not only images of cookies, but also websites and directions to, I guess, places where you can buy cookies. But to get to just images of cookies, you should go to the top right where it says images. And if you click on that, that will take you to a separate page that is just a search for images. And now if you search cookies, you'll only see pictures. And then you can scroll down, you can click on each cookie for more info. And then that is probably the easier way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that if you want to find a picture, I would go to Google Images. You can actually type into Google Cookies, and then you'll see images right below it as well. So you don't have to start from images. You could just click on images and go from there. And if you click on a picture, you could actually find more information about it, like the website that it came from. It looks like here's a recipe and related images as well. So by clicking on an image, you could find more information about that specific picture. Okay. Now the last thing is maps. Now this we're also going to spend a brief time on because I think it is pretty important. So once again, you could just type in, let's say I type in Central Park, so park in New York City for those of you who are not here. It looks like it's giving me a map of Central Park. It's giving me some information about it. But just like images, there's actually a button that says Maps, which is over here. And if you click on Maps, you'll be actually taken to a program called Google Maps, which is a pretty extensive and informative website to find maps of different things. You can see that not only does it show me a map of Central Park, but I can find directions from where I am or where some other place is. You could see the hours. This is a park, so it's probably open most of the time. But if you go to like a restaurant or a school or something that you want to see the hours, you can type in the name of it, and it will show you the hours. Something else that's cool is you can see that this map looks great. It gives you kind of a brief outline, but if you click on satellite, which is a button at the bottom left of the map, you will actually change your map from a kind of grid to actually a real life map. And you can see every single tree and every single, a much more real life experience. If I go to the Ramaz Middle School, which if you took in-person classes with me, you were in this building, you can see that we could actually look at the building itself. Right, here's the top of the building. Here's the side street. You could really look into this. Like, look how realistic. You could be walking down the streets and seeing different things. This is pretty cool. So you could just play around with this if you actually want to find something on the internet just by typing in the name of it and then clicking on satellite view. If you want to find directions from one place to another, you should click on the directions button, which is this blue button over here. I'll go back so you see it again. If you type in the name of a location and you click on the directions button, which is over here, it's a blue button. It should be right under the name of it. If you click on that, you will be able to type in a starting point and an ending point. Now, it already filled in the ending point with the Ramaz Middle School because I typed in earlier. And let's say I click on the starting point. Let's say I make it Central Park. Central Park. Okay. Now it will give me the estimated time. It will give me a map. You can see it gave me this whole kind of outline. It tells me that if I walk, which is this little icon here, it will take me 11 minutes and it's 0.6 miles. If I take a car, it will take me 17 minutes. Does that make sense? And it will be 13.5 miles. But here, if I go to say I go to car up here. Maybe it's saying 17 because there's traffic. That could be a possibility. But you'll see that it's telling you the distance. Usually the one at the top is the fastest route, and then they'll give you alternatives. You can click on at the top. There are different icons. Besides from just the car, you can go to the bus, and you could see the transit routes and how far away different buses are. You could use the walking one, which is obvious, and also like the bike. You could, if you want to bike from one place to another, it will give you directions on different bike paths that you could take as well. And there's also a plane icon if you want to see how long it takes to fly somewhere. Obviously, you can't fly from Central Park to the Upper East Side, so it's not giving you that option. But if I type in from Central Park to Florida, not Florida, New York, Florida, say Miami, Florida, now it's giving me the plane option, and I can click on that. And it looks, there's a flight from New York to Miami. It takes 2 hours and 45 minutes. And the round trip is from $41. And you could even actually purchase tickets from here by going to see results on Google Flights, which I'm sure some other useful program if you want to actually find flight information, which we're not going to get into. But you could browse from driving, using a bus or transit, walking, cycling, and using a plane, and using satellite view to actually see a more realistic approach of the Earth, and even places that you want to go to. You can zoom in and see now we're in the Bahamas, and you can look through all this. If you enjoy doing this, you should definitely play around with it. It's definitely a very cool tool that you could look into, and you could see specific places just by typing it into the search bar. Okay.